Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to do another bottom end. We have our 268 giveaway saw that Mr. Adam Winchittle sent us. I want to get cracking on this saw. We will be waiting several weeks for parts, but for the time being, let's get some forward progress on this. You guys always email when I do a bottom end build and say thank you. I got something out of that, so let's do it. First thing I want to tell you guys, cleanliness. You want to make sure that these things are clean when you do a bottom end build. Now's your time to get all the dirt and debris out of the oil tank, etc., etc. Now that I've cleaned the, now that I've cleaned the bearings out, it's bad. This one doesn't even move now. So, okay, I'm going to bring you guys in close. I'll try and get a nice overhead view this time, and let's do a bottom end build. We got to heat these cases up and get these bearings out of here. Okay, now you want to heat these up so that you don't mar the cases. Ready? There you go. Okay, there's one bearing. Now I'll do the same with the other side. You can see there's no scratches going forwards and backwards. That's what you want. Now I'm going to heat up the other side. Usually heat them for about 3-4 minutes. You'll see it'll start smoking. You'll start burning the oil out of the case. About 250, 275 is usually good enough. There you go. Okay, we're back. I've inspected these cases. Little hole there, but it doesn't go into anything. No biggie. Now, one thing I've noted, I'll show you guys things as they come. There's a scratch there where the seal goes. Okay. Now, I've seen this before. Sometimes it's a big deal, sometimes it's not. Okay, I polished up this bore as good as I could. It's a couple thousand scratch. When we put the crank seal in, what I'm going to do is I will put Moto Seal around the crank seal. Okay, and that should seal it up. I've seen that before. You're going to see that in old saws. I'm sure this thing's had a few sets of crank seals. Who knows though, right? So, just something to note. Okay, so we got our cases split. We got our bearings out. Now I'm going to put the bearings. I'm going to put the bearings on the crank, and then I'm going to put the crank in the case halves, just like I normally do it. Depending on what I'm doing, this is how I do it. Okay, here's our old bearings. They are absolutely kaput. I'm going to grab new bearings here, and we'll get going. These are the bearings I use, FAG 6202 C3. I've been using these for years. I've never had one fail me yet. So, okay, now you want to clean out all the oil and debris. Blow them out good. These ones have already been cleaned. Okay, just make sure there's nothing in your bearings. Even though they're new, sometimes if you drop them on your bench or whatever, you can get stuff in there. Okay, our crank, we have cleaned and inspected it. It's not blue here anywhere. There's no up and down play. She's a good crank. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to heat the bearings on. I'm going to leave the crank at room temperature, and I'm going to push the bearings onto the crank. Make sure you have a corresponding socket. Sometimes they'll stick halfway. Tap them from the inside in. Don't beat on them on the outside like this, because you can break the races. Okay, so I'm going to get all set up. I'll heat these up, and I'll drop them on with a pair of pliers. Okay, this is where you want to work quick. Ready? And once you get them on there, that's it. They're not coming off. So work quickly. Make sure you clean where the bearings sit. I forgot to mention that. Just about burnt myself there, friends. Okay, take a little Scotch-Brite and just... There you go. Now let it all cool down, just like that. Okay, here's our finished crank assembly with nice brand new bearings. Okay, they don't even make any noise. That's what you want. Now I will heat up this case half. Okay, I will heat up this case half and I will drop the appropriate side in. Now, which side is which? The side with the key is the side with the flywheel, okay? If you put it together backwards, don't worry about it. You can always split it again. It happens. I've done it. It's embarrassing every time. Hopefully there's nobody there to make fun of you. Okay, we're going to heat this up. And this is cool to the touch now. I like to do bottom ends in winter because I will actually leave this outside. And it will almost fall in after an hour outside frozen. It'll almost fall into the case. But for right now, room temperature is fine. We're going to heat this up. You guys can see that little scuff. Again, it's not terrible, but I just want to make you guys aware. I'll put a little sealant on that seal and it'll be fine. Okay, on with the heating, and I'll hit you guys back up when I'm ready to drop it in. Got to work quickly and methodically. It's almost like welding. Plan your path. Okay, make sure your rod isn't halfway like this. Just plan your attack because you only have literally seconds to drop this in there straight. Okay? Okay, ready? Drop it in straight. One go. There you go. Now leave it. Okay, you want to make sure the cases are nice and hot, or what ends up happening is that bearing will go like this and it'll stop, or it'll go in crooked, and then the minute it transmits the heat from the case to the bearing, it goes and cinches itself down. So, and now it's in there, okay? It's not coming out. Now, that's the way it should go. Again, practice makes perfect. The first couple times I did a bottom end, it did not go like this. If you want it to cool down a little bit quicker, often I will do this. Give it just a little shot of air, and that'll get rid of some of the heat. Okay, and again, I've prepped all my gasket surfaces. Wipe them down with brake clean. Don't use carb cleaner on these old cases. The paint will come off. Ask me how I know. I've done that. Okay, I'll just let these cool down for about 5 minutes, and I'll get the other side prepped, and we'll heat the other side. You got to get all your gasket surfaces clean. Grab your gasket. You want to grab your case bolts. Have everything within reach, so that, because often if you don't get this thing to cinch down, it'll cinch 3/4 of the way. A lot of the times you're gonna have to do that last little bit with the case bolts. Okay, so I'm gonna let this cool down, and I'll hit you guys back when we're ready to put the other side together. Okay, I'm gonna take a little shot of brake clean. Degrease all your mating surfaces, which I've already done, but practice or repetition in this case. You just want to make sure you don't have an air leak. An extra minute or two now can save you hours of headache later. Because an air leak here means you're taking the whole saw down again. So I think think this is a good practice to be in. Okay, there's that side. This is the case that we're going to put together. Same thing. I'm going to just give her a quick little wipe. Okay, wipe inside again one more time. There you go. Now I'm going to take a little moto seal and I'm going to go around this case. Okay, just a little light skim coat. You don't have to do this. This is going to skin over before I get the other half on, but this is how I've always done it, and I've never had one leak, knock on wood, so I'm just going to continue. We do the things we do because we think they work. Whether they do or not, well, I guess if you've had case leaks and you started doing it this way and the leaks stop, then you know it works. But if you've never had a leak, then who knows, right? So again, to each their own. You do it the way you like it, and that's what makes the world go around. I don't even need any on here, but this keeps the gasket in line also. It won't move. Nothing's worse than having a gasket move when you put a bottom end together, because it's not like you can just pull it apart and reposition it. This saw was actually pretty clean inside. You find a lot of nasty things inside the oil tank often. Piles and piles of sawdust and debris and chips, and so yeah, this saw was definitely looked after. I think this saw was just really well taken care of, but I think it's got time on it. That hole in the case tells me it's got time on it, because it looks like just from debris hitting the case, not from throwing chains, because there's no chain damage anywhere else. Okay, here's our new gasket. Put it over the dowel pins. Okay, right here. That's why generally I do this side first. Okay, there we go. Now you can cut this little piece that strings them together apart, which I'm going to do. I'm just going to use a pair of side cutters right now because that's what I have close. Okay, there you go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply another layer of Moto Seal to the top of this, and then I'm going to heat this case and put them together. Okay, friends, this is where you want to work real quick. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, beauty. I put that on by hand. That's the way you want it. You want to get that case nice and hot, and you want it to just fall together without beating on it. Or, I mean, sometimes you got to pull them together with your case bolts. I prefer not to do that. You're really not going to hurt anything with the heat. These saws do get pretty hot, and that's just the way it is. So again, practice makes perfect. I do these all the time, so if you put your first one together and it gives you trouble, that's okay. It happens. It really does. The first couple I did got stuck halfway together, and I think I had to pull them back apart. So okay, I'm gonna do this, cinch them down. Now there's other ways to do this. There's pulling tools. You can pull the crank through the bearings, whatever makes you happy. I might buy some of those tools one day, but I don't know. I've always done it the old school way, heat and cold, and it works. Never had one fail yet, so if I started having bearing failures, I would maybe switch. I've never had a bearing failure in any saw, let alone a ported saw. So again, I haven't been doing this for 25 years, so maybe that's what it is, but so far so good. Now these cases are bottomed out. I can feel it. I'm really not putting any pressure on this. Okay, tighten these in a cross pattern, just like you would with anything else that needs to be. Okay. Okay, front two. Now we'll take these back off later when we put our falling dogs on. Okay, right here. Now, first thing you want to do is look straight down, okay? Is the crankshaft centered? Now I can see right now it is slightly this way, and when you go to turn the crank, it's stiff, okay? That means there's side load on the bearings. When you put the bearings in, you get a little bit of side load. So again, we're going to look at this crank assembly. It is close to center, real close, but it's slightly this way. Now watch, okay? You guys ready? There you go. See that? Okay, sometimes I'll give it a little tap this way just to make sure it's happy. Okay. And again, just one more, just to make sure. Okay, there you go. That, in a nutshell, is how you do a bottom end. It takes about that long. The only thing I edited out was a little bit of case prep, the cleaning and whatnot. Wear your welding gloves. I have burnt myself doing this way more times than I care to mention. Okay, that's how it should be. Look, almost no tension. Or almost no force. I'm just barely touching it, look. Okay? You should be able to clasp it like this and easily spin the motor over. Okay? If it's stiff at all, okay? If it's stiff at all, you really, really want to make sure. Take that mallet and give it a good whack. Make sure it's a soft face mallet. This is my crank beaten mallet. They make tools to screw onto the ends. They're called crank knockers. And you can give it a good whack. You want to be aware on these a lot of 66s, 72s, and that I've rebuilt. The cranks tend to want to go into one side. Be aware that if the crank isn't centered, by centered I mean there's an equal gap on either side. If you miss that, sometimes when you go to put your oil pump on, you'll find that there is actually there's not enough space in there. Now I'm not worried about this one. I know the oil pump's gonna fit, and we're good. You can use the oil pump as a stop if you would like. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so here's your oil pump. Okay, here's your oil pump. Now, if you were putting the bearings in first, take all your gaskets off. There's an O-ring here. Tap your crank seal out, okay? Put your oil pump on there, cinch it down, then heat the cases, and then drop your bearing in. If you don't do that, what's going to happen or can happen is your bearing will drop too far into the case. You guys can see there's a little bit of bearing sticking out. That's how these normally should be. Okay, like a 40th or a 32nd of bearing sticking out there. It's not even quite that much. If the bearing is too far in the case, when you cinch down this oil pump, you're going to put side load on the bearing, and then also that plastic gear that spins the oil pump, it'll get piled up in here and it'll actually melt, and you'll fight with that for days trying to figure out why your oiler keeps quitting. And it's not your oiler, it's actually that your bearing's too far in. You hear that? That's a bad bearing. You can feel it too. I know I've showed this many times on the channel, but this is the good stuff. Because let's face it, guys, if a saw needs a bottom end like this, it's getting thrown in the garbage most times. That's where you guys as saw builders, you're going to pounce, right? You're like, a saw? I'll take a saw. I like to buy them needing bearings and stuff because I'm going to do it anyways. Yeah, you see that, guys? Now this is starting to cool down nicely. Okay, I'm going to let this sit for the rest of the day. Tomorrow I will come back and I will reef these down even more. They are tight. Okay. Sometimes when it cools, the case will shrink and you'll need to give them a little bit of a, you know, just a little snug up. Okay. Okay, friends. Well, there you go. It's cooled down now. Real smooth. And I'm happy. This should be a good, long-lasting bottom end. I see no reasons why we will have any issues. And this thing went together nice. Again, a little scuff where the crank seal is, but it is what it is. I've seen that many times before. And when you work on saws that are this old, often you'll run into little things and you just got to figure your way how to work around them. Other than that, this saw's in nice shape, and I'm really happy to build this for somebody. Okay, well, I have to order a top end for this saw. Again, stick a rag in there. Keep the junk out. I have to order a top end for this saw. It's already ordered. It's probably a week or two out. We're just waiting for a couple parts to restock. So I just wanted to get a head start. When the top end comes in, we will put a timing wheel on this and we will port map it, and we're going to port it. Don't be surprised if the timing numbers are very similar to the Echo. Same bore and stroke, same go fast numbers. Funny how that works, eh? Anyhow, friends, as always, I always appreciate you guys coming to hang out in the shop, and I love making videos for you guys. If you have any questions, post them below. tinmansaws@gmail.com is my email. Feel free to email me with any saw issues or just to say hello. I love hearing from you guys. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later, guys. Thanks for coming.